My secret, just do something that ain't nobody ever done before, but make it sound like something that's always been there forever.
Welcome to This Filipino American Life, a podcast that explores the nuanced experiences of Filipinos in the United States at iba pa. My name is Ryan Carpio, and I'm joined by my fellow hosts,
Joe Bernardo,
Elaine Delalis,
Mike,
at the ready,
and Girly.
Yay! Girly's back. Yay, Joe. Right, Joe? Right?
Yeah, sure.
Okay, that's getting old.
I know. Sorry.
I love Girly.
Oh, that's better.
That's new.
Yay,
Well,
that's better.
Welcome to another episode, but before we get into it, I think Elaine has our TFAL of the episode.
Yes, our TFAL of the episode is Ron Paragas Tolentino.
Oh, Ron.
Do you guys know him? Do you know him?
I want to know him.
I love how whenever I say it, I'm like, do you guys know him?
Yes.
Do you
Yeah,
know
and
him?
Ryan's always like, yeah, I know him.
Yeah.
I'm like,
Ron.
I know Ron. I know
Yeah.
Ron.
Ron Toll is what I call him.
Ron
my lordy.
Partol.
Ron Partol.
Ron Partol. RPT, right?
Yeah,
RPT. Thank you, Ron, for being our TPAL and for supporting us on our Patreon. If folks want to contribute, you can. We're at patreon.com/TFAL podcast.
Thank you.
Yes. Okay, so in today's episode, we are going to talk about Filipino methods of healing, non-Western, herbal, and hilot for some folks who have heard that term before, but mostly herbal and arbolario in Tagalog, and our experiences with this form of healing as Filipino Americans. And I'm curious as to my crew's experiences with such forms of healing. If you grew up with it or if you know what it means, I'm curious on your thoughts and your take on it. Even now, if it's something that's new to you. So
It's new to me.
it's new to you. Okay.
So actually, my Lola always lived on white flour.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, you know what white flour is, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like the tiger balm.
Yeah.
Right?
you mean it's not like
It's not a white
traditional?
flour.
Wait, so you mean Tiger Bomb, right?
Yeah, but she always call it white flour.
Yeah, there's
That's a
different-
brand.
It's a brand.
It's a brand.
Mind explosion.
Oh my god.
White flour is the brand from the
Yeah.
Philippines. Tiger Bomb.
Tiger Bomb is
I
another
think, the
brand, but it's
Chinese
also a
brand.
thing. Yeah.
Oh my god.
Yeah, because
Wow.
my parents did Tiger Bomb.
Is that a medicine of some kind?
It's like a salve.
It's a salve.
It was like
It's a salve.
Oh, I thought it was just like a perfume.
You know what it's like? It's like Vicks.
It's basically
like
Vicks. It's
Yeah.
basically
It's Vicks.
Vicks.
Okay, but
in more liquid form.
Right.
Okay.
Wait, no, my parents, it was like a salve, like an actual Vicks.
No,
white flour is
flour
liquid.
flour
is liquid.
liquid. Okay.
Yeah.
And she would rub it on
Everything.
underneath the nose when you're congested. But she also used salompas all the time.
Salon Plus. Okay,
Yeah.
we did that.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's also a brand, Joe.
Oh, if that's the case, then my parents did that too. Like Tiger Bomb. I just never thought of that. Yeah, Tiger Bomb, Salon Plus is one. Which when I saw commercials
Yeah.
on TV, they say it in the American like Salon Plus, and I
Yeah.
was like, Salon Plus. What are you saying?
Actually, I used to think it was spelled with an M, as in Mary.
Salon-
Oh, yeah.
Salon-
Oh, lagi mo na sa lompas. I'm like, oh, and then I saw, isn't it with an N?
Yeah,
Yeah, with an N.
And it was-
And then
my dad used to say it so fast.
I guess this is another. I mean, this is not really like faith healing. Well, it is faith healing, but my mom used to be like, whenever I got sick, they have like little things with the Virgin Mary. It's like has holy water in it, and my mom would be like, "Oh, you're sick? Go get the Mama Mary and like put the water on your nose, on your chest, on your throat, wherever you're sick." Like I was supposed to put this like water on myself to heal myself.
Yeah.
I have no idea if it worked, but
Right.
like that's what I would do. And now I just do Vicks. Like I put
Right.
Vicks on my nose. I put it on my feet. I put it in my, like put it everywhere that I'm ailing. I'm like Vicks everywhere. Vicks, Vicks, Vicks.
Well, for me, it was very much a part of my entire life. I always knew that my great aunts and my Lola, like they always had like leaves. Like I remember one of my great aunts like waving morongay leaves in front of a friend who wasn't feeling well, and then she had a jar full of I have no idea what was in that jar, but she made my friend like smell that jar, and it would just kind of like jarred her to just like be really alert.
It was white flour.
No, this did not look like clear white flour. There was a bunch of stuff in that jar. So there was always this mix of like, you know, Western and Filipino
Pre-colonial.
healing, pre-colonial healing practices. But, you know, my dad was a nurse his entire career. And so, you know, he also didn't restrict himself to Western methods of healing. He also believed in Filipino indigenous practices of healing.
There's a kind of a temperature or a cold or cool, warm, cool,
balance.
hot balance
Yeah.
in the way you know, Filipinos, and I think other cultures, indigenous cultures, think about your body and your body temperature. So that's why a lot of those like Tiger Balm, Salonpas, Vicks, it's like a very cooling sensation when
So
you're
it has like menthol in it.
right.
Yeah.
But it's just you know, in nature and the way we look at herbs and plants and the way we see ginger, for example. Ginger is a very spicy thing. Like my dad, I've had ginger paste on my ankle when I sprained my ankle playing basketball more than any kind of like actual like medicines.
Did that work?
It did. I mean, it heats it.
Yeah.
It heats it and it
does.
keeps it warm. And my dad would like put some like ground up ginger, would like make it into a paste and then put it in your kind of like a athletic tape and wrap your ankle.
Oh wow, I never
Yeah.
heard that
Yeah.
before.
So that's like a very natural. It's like, oh, we'll put ginger on it. It'll warm it up, and it worked.
Yeah.
You know.
I also had an aunt here in the United States where like every time a cousin or somebody like broke an ankle or you know had some sort of like muscle tension, people would just go to her and get a massage from her. And I don't know if she ever really used like special oils, but you know, after getting a massage from her, like everything was fine.
Right. Right.
So massage as in like hilot
Yeah, I guess.
or amblon. in
I
Ilocano?
had no idea what was happening. I mean, I just saw it's like, oh, well, yeah, everybody's just gonna go to Auntie Bita and they're gonna go get a massage and they'll be fine.
Yeah. And you know, right now, maybe in the last 10 years or so, like we're seeing a lot more of like, or for me at least, it's not new anymore to me, but it's not a surprise that things are coming up where it comes from natural like herbs and things that we find naturally anyway, that, you know, Western medicine usually takes those things and puts it into a pill.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And so I think we it's kind of like evolution of things, but there's also some natural things that you can find at home. And I gave ginger as an example because that used to always be in the house. I used to sing a lot, and so, you know, you would drink salabat during you know, right before you go to choir practice or something like that. But ginger tea is basically what it is.
Well, I actually want to go back to your idea of this, like when your body, like the cold and hot factor and like your body being inflamed. So using something else to kind of like temper that inflammation. I mean, for me, because it's been just kind of the idea of natural materials having some sort of like health benefit. The older I've gotten, the more I've strayed away from Western medicine. I just think that a lot of the medicines that I've taken have masked whatever things I've
Ailment
been,
you have,
whatever ailments I've been experiencing versus like actually getting to the root of the problem.
Yeah.
So over the years, I've actually been doing a lot more acupuncture and really looking at the foods that I've been digesting and figuring out which ones are causing inflammation and which ones are not, and being more mindful in that way.
So like Western medicine treats the symptoms as opposed to treating the actually root causes of
Exactly.
disease and elements. You know, going back to the hot cold thing, I remember my Lola always said like, don't drink cold water when you're eating something hot, and vice versa.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, it was always weird to me. And then
Yeah, they told me that, and it was because you would ruin your teeth. No, like I swear to God, like my
Okay,
parents.
that one's new to me.
Because it was like if you have you drink hot, like if you have hot soup and then you drink cold water, it's like you're ruining your teeth because it's like the sensitivity part.
Oh.
Elaine's ruining your teeth.
I got ruined teeth anyway. My teeth are broken. So
It sounds like my parents saying they don't sleep with your hair wet or whatever because you go blind.
Exactly.
Broken teeth.
I have broken teeth. They're all broken. All cavities. I keep my uncle dentist like rich. When I walk in, he's like $sign, $sign.
Oh,
You're not getting my joke, are you?
I'm like laughing over here in the corner. Joe keep calling your teeth tits.
Denying it.
Now I get it. I'm so slow. Sorry, I'm oblivious.
That's true. Girlie, you had a incident that happened when you were in the Philippines back in the provincia.
The provincia.
Yeah, where your friend, your travel mate, got sick. And what happened?
So, I was born in Ballesteros, Cagayan, the most northern tip of Luzon, and this was back in 2003. A long time. But it was the first time that I had been back to the Philippines as an adult, and I was also without my parents.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So if you drive from Manila to Ballesteros, it's maybe a day and a half, just because there's no direct route. You kind of have to go from Manila to the coast and then up. Anyway.
You could fly to Loag.
Yeah, I know now. Thank you. So we get to the provincia finally, but we stopped in Baguio. We were traveling. It was the two of us. We were having fun, and the first house that I wanted to visit was my dad's house because that was the house that I had the most memories in before I left the Philippines. And I remember my aunt, my mom's sister, telling me like, oh, maybe you should go there later. It's all right. You should just kind of like settle in first. And I was like, no, I want to go over there. So I go over to my dad's house and I have my friend with me. We're walking around, like touching everything. And I was telling her like, oh, this is where my grandfather used to do blah, blah, blah. And it looks the house looked much smaller than I had remembered. And it's a 2-story house. So we were just kind of like walking around everywhere, touching everything. And then we get back to my mom's house, which happened to be in the backyard.
Right.
Because that's how my parents grew up. And, just kind of getting settled. And my friend just was feeling horrible. She had to go lay down. She was feeling really sick. And then I told my great aunt, like, what happened, that we had gone over to my Lolo's house and we're touching everything and things like that. And my great aunt said, why did you do that?
Like touch everything?
Yeah. She's like, you went there and you didn't introduce your friend. So all the spirits in the house were probably touching her because they were wondering who she was. Yes. And I'm like, what?
How do you remedy that?
Right. So she went to her house, which was, next door. And she came back with the marunggay leaves and the jar of stuff. And she has my friend sit up and smells the jar of stuff and then waves the morungay leaves in her face and she's saying something. I forget what she said in Ilocano. And then my friend, and she's like, okay, take a nap. And then my friend wakes up and then she's totally fine. Like nothing happened.
Interesting.
Yeah.
That's so cool.
The other thing that my dad told me to do when we first arrived in the Philippines is take some of the water, like the tap water, and rub it on your tummy so that when you accidentally drink the water, you won't get sick. And I was like, what?
Like through osmosis?
Really? So I'm like, okay, well, this isn't like, it's not going to injure me or anything.
Right.
So I'm going to
Might as
try
well try
it.
it,
Right. So I did.
And she got rashes.
I did I didn't tell my friend when she got sick.
Oh, no.
Because I didn't think like, oh, this is not going to do anything. Let me just try it.
Right.
So I don't know. I mean, I don't know if there was a direct connection or truth to whatever my dad had told me, or like I had no idea what the principles were of whatever methods that my great aunt used on my friend. But like, everything was fine.
Yeah, it's definitely like a balance and a like when you would think about faith healing, you know, I always think about it when I was younger. I always think about it as something that had to do with religion, and it doesn't. It just really has something to do with believing, right? And part of believing and respecting the herbs or the places that you go, and it still goes back into this whole like balance of warm and cold. I don't know if you guys have ever heard of the word usog. Do you guys know what usog is? So I don't know if traditionally if you meet a baby for the first time, this reminded me of that place. I don't know if you guys make the sign of the cross on the feet or anything like that.
Yeah, I've seen people do that. Yeah.
Or they say lawayan mo, like to put your saliva on them. Have you guys heard of that?
Oh no.
And so there's a term called laway is
Like
saliva.
Yeah.
Yeah, so if you meet a baby for the first time, I actually do this just by tradition, not necessarily thinking about my actual saliva, but it's an introduction to a new baby. And a lot of times it's like, oh, na usog yung baby, or like the baby will go hysterical. If you're coming from like the hot sun, if you're coming in to the house and you meet a baby, you know, don't come to the baby right away, mauusog, right?
Because you have all the heat.
Because
Yeah.
and a lot of it is like just this balance of like energy and heat, and you're usually like very hot, and the baby will get uncomfortable with it. And so, you know, a lot of that is like just believing that you have a certain kind of respect for space, energies, nature in itself, and kind of transcends like things that we don't necessarily understand as, you know, kids growing up. Like I didn't understand any of that stuff growing up. But
Well, the other thing, going back to your point about thinking that many of these practices were based in religion, the other thing to think about is, you know, all these pre-colonial practices existed before the Spanish and whatever other colonizers came into the Philippines. And so, you know, in order to continue to kind of change the practices a bit, the Spaniards or whomever incorporated these practices to make them a bit religious or to relate them to whatever Christian practices. And over time, I think that's what's happened. Like my family in particular has retained all of these pre-colonial practices while they are still very deeply Catholic.
and they add prayer, right?
Yes.
They add prayer to the healing, and they add holy water, for example, in addition to like whatever
Sign of the cross.
Yeah.
Right.
things, yeah.
It's funny because like my dad, I don't think like he believed in these type of things, but like there are certain practices that we do that I know are tied to like these type of hilo things. Like, I mean, this is like a tangential to it is like to have like a unting.
Yeah.
You know, like that's a part of the same, like respectful of the energies and whatnot. And my dad, he used to like, cause my lola, like she used to practice like, not like she had magic powers. Like this is a weird thing to say out loud, but she had like magic powers. Like she could do telekinesis and she could do like certain types of healings. And kids used to call her Baybaylan, like a Baybaylanes.
Sure.
Oh, wow.
And like for me, I was like, oh, that's cool, Dad, because like in college I learned about Baybaylanes and how like they're like powerful people. My dad was like, I used to beat those kids up when they called her a Baybaylanes because it was like they were calling her a witch.
Yeah.
So like he didn't believe in these things, right? And he's like, and like they would say like, and he's like, oh, if they said that something he was wearing was an anting, he'd be like, no, it's not. Like he would always be like, no, it's not. And then the weird thing is, like in college, like there's my aunt had gone to a medium or something, and they said like there's a family curse, and so like in order to break the curse, everybody in your family needs to wear a diamond.
Huh.
And
I'm with that. I'm with that.
diamond girl.
Oh, diamond girl.
I will wear as many diamonds as you want me to.
Well, I never wear jewelry, so hit Joe. But so my dad at the time had told me, Elaine, you need to go buy a necklace with a diamond in it. And I was like, okay. So I bought like a cross, like at Mervyn's. it had like 0.25 diamond, but it was a diamond. So my dad was like, I'll give you the money. Just make sure you have it and you always wear it. Never take it off.
So he did believe.
To him, that wasn't an unthing.
Because it was Christian or
Because
Catholic.
it was Catholic or for some reason.
Interesting.
So I used to always think like my dad has like this weird interpretation of it, just because like as a child, for him to be called a Babaylanes meant something bad, or to follow these practices, like pre-colonial practices, was something I don't know if he inherited some sort of shame attached to it. So he always separated from himself, but at the same time, like we practice all these things. Like to this day, like I always wear a diamond. I don't wear a necklace anymore, but like when I did wear necklaces, I always wore that diamond necklace. In fact, it was turning my neck green, so I had to like change the chain. But I always wore the diamond. And then when we got married, like my wedding band has diamonds in it, so now like that's the diamond that I always wear. And like my dad, he bought a wedding band with a diamond in it as a replacement because he lost his. And my mom always wears like diamonds herself. She's like, so at first I was like, is that lady just gaming us, telling us to buy diamonds? But I'm not gonna risk it.
Sure.
Like I'm not gonna not wear the diamond.
And really, can it really hurt you?
I don't think so. So maybe that's another thing. Like,
just make sure they're not blood diamonds.
Well, yes.
Yeah.
Well, from Mervyn's.
Doesn't exist anymore. Leave it alone.
And for reference, anting is like an amulet, right?
Amulet,
like
yeah.
Like ward off evil spirits or things like
which
that.
I feel like is tied to like the stuff.
Well, thank you guys for sharing. When we come back, we will have a Filipino American arbolaria named Lynn Pacificar, who will be joining us and telling us about her family's history in the Philippines, about herbal medicine, and her dad being a healer.
Hey, you. Yeah, you. Are you a business owner? Are you a Filipino American business owner? Would you like to hear your ad on our show, This Filipino American Life? Like, if you can do that by sponsoring This Filipino American Life. Like, if you are a business that is now out of business, like, what businesses, guys?
Like Tatak Filipino. You could have remained in business if you advertised in This Filipino American Life.
Or you could still feed me Betsy's with your wonderful
your
pandesal
delicious pandesal.
if you advertise on This Filipino American Life.
Or if you are from Daly City, you remember Sinugba.
Oh, I do remember seeing
Yeah, it's not there anymore. Sad, huh?
Well, they should have had an ad from This Filipino American Life.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It would go on like right here, right now.
Hey, Ryan, how do you get an ad on This Filipino American Life?
You email us at thisfilipinoamericanlife@gmail.com or
what?
There is
Find
no
us.
or.
That's
Good
it.
job.
Yeah.
email us.
But yeah, if you were a business, you'd be hearing your ad right now instead of us talking to you about an ad that you could sponsor.
Exactly.
So sponsor us.
Thanks.
Thank you.
And we're back. Thank you for listening to our little commercial there. We are here with guests from herbalaria.com or Herbalaria Company, Lynn and Gilbert Pacificar. Welcome.
Thank you. Thank you for having us.
Hello.
Hi.
Hello.
Hello.
So we had been talking earlier about our experiences with different forms of healing, medicine, even faith healing in our families. And we're here to talk to a couple of experts and in their field, and wanted to get a sense of history of how you guys started either this company or the history of of Herbalaria from Lynn.
Or my background?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. Let's start with, well, my name is Lynn Pacificar, and I am a Filipino American born here in Los Angeles. But I was traditionally raised by my parents and my grandparents. So I lived in a small apartment here in Koreatown.
Oh, okay.
And I lived with my grandmother and my lolo and lola. So my lolo and lola are my mom's parents, and my grandma was my dad's mom. Yeah, so my grandmother came from Sumaraga, Samar. My dad was born in Tacloban City, Leyte. My lolo and lola came originally from Panay, Capiz, and then migrated to Cotabato City in Mindanao.
Right on.
Yeah.
Okay.
And Gilbert's family is from Iloilo.
Yes. And so Iloilo, actually, as far as healing, my mom is actually a OBGYN before for many years in West Covina. She actually gave birth to, almost when I'm there, anywhere we go, she has someone that goes, "Hey, Dr. Pacificar, wow." And then she would introduce the kid, and the kid's like 20. And it'd be like, "Oh yeah, she delivered you," and this and that. So
Wow.
Yeah, it's pretty interesting being the son of a doctor. But I've always been surrounded by healers. From my mom, and now through Lynn.
Oh, your grandmother was also a nurse?
Yeah, she was also a nurse in World War II. So
wow.
she helped a lot of soldiers back then.
Yeah. And my dad was a manghihilot. He's
Cool.
a healer, Filipino martial artist as well. I'm a third generation Filipino martial artist because my grandfather also did martial arts when he came here to the U.S. He was part of the U.S. Army. When he immigrated here, he was in New York, and he was an instructor for martial arts over there. And then my dad studied Shotokan, Shorin-ryu karate, and also he's an escrimador.
Oh my goodness.
Oh yeah, he's very yeah.
That's cool.
he's very powerful, and I was really blessed to be born into this lineage where we have healers and martial artists, because to be a really excellent healer, you have to be an excellent martial artist. Like, it goes hand in hand.
Vice versa, yeah.
Yeah. So.
Oh, can you describe to us what a hilot is, or what you knew of your dad?
Sure,
Yeah.
absolutely. Let me let's go back
Sure.
to when I was younger, when my dad was there with us. Even in the apartment, I would watch him do hilot sessions. So hilot's like, it's not massage. It looks like it, but it's an energetic type of transference and manipulation of your musculoskeletal system, and he used different oils and herbs that he brought from the Philippines, and those oils and herbs had intention. So we call them anting-anting oils. And what people understand as anting-anting is a type of amulet or talisman. It could be in the form of a coin, metal piece, prayers that are written in Latin, which is an adaptation, by the way, of Catholic prayers that have been, how do you call it? It's been translated in such a way that we could put in our traditional healing practices and mystical practices into the form that the colonizers did to our tribes and to our people. So I grew up with that, and I used to observe him do healing sessions with other people when we moved to our other house in LA, in Hollywood, where we're currently at. And so his healing room became my healing room.
Right.
Yeah.
That's cool.
Yeah, but he's a manghihilot, and also he described to me different healers in the Philippines, that they're not always healers. We also have very magical people who use incantations and spells. You know, there's a word called barang, which means like cursing, babarang. There is manggagamot.
Or
Yeah,
medicine.
medicines.
Focused.
And then you have someone like me who's an albularia, which is also a folk medicine healer, not just someone who works with plant medicine. It's really someone who knows how to do readings. First of all, I have to know how to look into someone's energy be sensitive enough to read where the blockages are, where you need to have this energy rebalanced and addressed. I also go between worlds of the living and the dead. Probably
Wow.
another podcast.
Yeah.
I would love to know more about that.
Because I'm a medium.
Right on.
And I work with ancestral energies. I work with ancestors very closely, as a matter of fact. And it helps me a lot to understand the person, where they're coming from when their ancestors come through. I'll speak to someone's Lola or someone's Lolo or aunt, or even someone they've never even known about or met. And then when they go ask their father or grandfather, oh, do you know this person? They're like, oh, I haven't heard that name in a long time. They passed away when they were in when they were 4 years old, 5 years old. And then that spirit comes through.
Right.
So that's another aspect of being an albulario. In addition to that, it is being able to be a diviner and then remove negative entities, attachments, and energies to go into a place, to go into the person's body and spiritually, and remove those things that are attached. It's a lot.
Sure. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then on top of that, I'm a ritualist. So I do ceremony, I do fire ceremonies and create products, which is why I have Herbalaria, which was actually an ancestral download. Ancestors told me to put plant medicine on the map for our culture because we need that medicine.
Have you always known, or when you were growing up, when you were watching your dad heal or be a hilot for folks, was it inspiring? Was it kind of confusing? Did it make sense to you? And also leading up to, like, when did you decide to take it on?
Good question. It is something that was natural. I think for a lot of us out there, and part of my job and why I'm even here talking is to encourage and strengthen people, because in our culture who have this in their lineage, but because we've been colonized to think that this is something not Christian or something that is out of the norm and just you can be looked on as a crazy person, that we're afraid. We become afraid of our very own power that our ancestors have given to us. So when I see my dad doing this, when I saw him, it was just a matter of fact. It was like, okay, people are coming over to the house. My mom would tell me stories of people walking into the house with a cane and then walking out without the cane, leaving it because they were healed.
Yeah.
You don't see that in Western medicine. These are the beliefs of the people. It runs through our bloodlines. And unfortunately, a lot of us have forgotten our own capabilities. And it takes a lot of courage, like someone like me, to come out as an albulario I haven't faced any challenges, to be honest with you, by anyone. Although there are people out there who would look upon my practice as heretical, and being Catholic myself, that's just something that you don't really speak of openly.
Right.
It's a secret. And I've encountered a number of people who say, oh yeah, I have my dad was an albulario. My grandfather was an albulario. Or right now there's this, other people know ritualists as babaylans. People are calling me a babaylan, but I call myself what I call myself, and I'm a healer, and I'm just bringing out what's true to me, and I'm just keeping it real. That's just the bottom line. Like, let's keep it real. This is our culture, and let's not be afraid of it. Let's not be afraid of our medicine, because that's true activism right there, without me marching about anything, picketing, without, bitching and complaining about what's being done to us. Oh no. I said, what is important is the actions. We have to put the actions out there to show that we have a lot to say and we have a lot to offer as a culture.
I have to say, Lynn, when I first met you, I really appreciated that is what you put out first and foremost. And it actually made me reflect on my own family's healing practices, because it made me remember that one of my aunties growing up, she would always do hilot. Like every time my cousin, he was a big, skateboarder. Whenever he'd get injured, he'd always go over to my aunt's house, limping in, and he'd walk straight out of the house like nothing happened. And I would remember my dad would say, like, his shoulder hurt, and so he'd say he'd go over to my Auntie Vita's house, and he's like, I'm gonna go get a massage, and I'll be right back, and he'll come back and like nothing happened, and I just didn't even think about it. I didn't think about the significance of that. And then there was my last trip to the Philippines. I told the story in the intro. I went there with a good friend of mine, and I went back to where I was born in Baliceros, Cagayan. And I was so excited to be there because I hadn't been there since like I was 10, and it was 2003. And I wanted to show her around, and I wanted to show her my father's house, which is the ancestral home. So, we were walking around the house, and I was showing her, all these different things, pictures of my grandparents who had passed away, and just different memories all around the house. And then we went back to my mom's house which was like behind my dad's house. They grew up in the same neighborhood, looking at each other literally. Wow. And maybe like an hour or so after that visit, she just wasn't feeling well. She was really lethargic, and she went and took a nap. And one of my great aunts asked me, what happened? Why is she feeling that way? She was completely fine when you both got here. And I told her like, oh, we just went over to Dad's house, and I was showing her around. And then my great aunt was like, why did you do that? All of the spirits in that house probably had no idea who she was. You probably didn't even introduce her properly. So when you were walking around the house, they were probably all touching her, and whatever that energy was like, it impacted her in a negative kind of way, right?
It makes sense though.
Yeah. So then my great aunt's like, I'll be right back. She goes next door to her house, and she comes back, and she has these like a canister of liquid that just, I could not even describe the smell. And then, and she had some marungai leaves. And so she goes to my friend, and she like waves the canister in front of her face. And then she like takes the marungai leaves and kind of fans her. And she has my friend like smell into that canister. She's like, okay, rest now, and then you'll feel better later. And she did, like, after she woke up from her nap, it was like nothing happened. So knowing you and knowing the practices that you have, and it really helped me to open my mind more and remember, like, this is the heritage that I come from. I come from a long line of healers in whatever ways. And my dad was also a nurse my whole life. And he, it was like, I think over time, my parents being very much like, this is America, you're going to learn to be American. All of those memories and that consciousness just kind of got wiped out of me until I met you, really. And I started to be more open and just remembering all of those practices. And even now, I think I place a lot more importance in just kind of overall health, not just from like drugs that you can buy in the market, but what you put into your body and the energy that you surround yourself in. So I really appreciate that you say that in everything that you do, Lynn.
Yes, thank you for sharing that. That makes me feel good. That shows that I'm really doing my job in some way, because it's hard when you're doing this kind of work and you don't really hear back from people until later. Yeah. And thank you for sharing also about your aunt's practice, about the malunggay and the canister, because that just shows the ability of our plant medicine. And what I do in my practice with the bayabas leaves, I use bayabas leaves more. I connect with that plant more than anything, which is why it's in a lot of my medicine, a lot of our products. And I use that, and I teach people, and I know you've seen me at FPAC and different events where I'm showing people how to smudge themselves with the bayaba sleeves because they use that, right?
I do that. I remember I bought the bayaba sleeves, and when I'm feeling off, like I actually do a smudge, but I do both. Like I have sage, and I'll do that once, and then I'll do the bayaba sleeves too. And like when I'm sick, like I have a little bit of a cold right now. I'll make tea, and then I will just put a leaf in the tea and just like let it seep in there. And I like strong tea anyway, and I like always recycle my tea anyhow. So I will just drink it till the water, every time I heat it, becomes white. Yeah. So it's just like I'm drinking clear water, but the bayaba leaf is still there. Just because like I do feel like I'm trying to get away from relying on over-the-counter cold medicine, just because like there's so many chemicals and whatnot in it. And so I'm trying to find, like, as I'm older, like more natural ways of healing. But it's just interesting because, girlie, you're talking about like you brought your friend to the Philippines and then she got touched by all these things. Like it is known. I talk about it all the time. I've never been to the Philippines. And that type of story scares the shit out of me, because if I go to the Philippines and they'll be like, "Who are you?" and they're all gonna touch me, I'm like, "Am I gonna die? Am I gonna get sick?"
Just don't drink the water.
I already know that part.
That is an excellent point too, because and here's the thing: not all spirits have the same culture, and if all around the world spirits have cultures, this is why exorcisms, Catholicism cannot apply their practice on every culture. It doesn't work that way. If we address the spirits, the ancient spirits of the Philippines, there is protocol. You must introduce yourself. You must have atang. You have to have offering. And you have to be able to present yourself with that type of strength and courage that this is who I am, and I'm here, and I'm giving respect.
Yeah.
You give respect to the land. You give respect to the ancestral spirits, and I think that's a good. It's also a good way of practicing when you're talking about, Elaine. You're drinking the guava leaf, even though you drink it till the point it's clear.
Yeah,
that guava leaf still sustains the energy of the medicine.
Yeah,
and you are infusing the water with that energy.
So if I infuse water with lemon, could I just put a bayaba leaf in my water?
Absolutely.
Oh, I'm going to do that then.
Absolutely.
Instead of lemon, I'm just going to do that. Instead of just put the leaf in there.
Yeah, put both.
Yeah.
You can mix it.
Yeah. It's funny you say that, because like with respect to the spirits and whatnot, like I try to tell my dad, like with like the All Souls Day, when like at the cemetery it's always packed because everyone's there, and then like my parents don't believe in the offerings part. Like they'll give flowers, but usually when I would visit my grandparents, I didn't have money for flowers, so I would like see what I had, and I would always have like fruit, and I would be like, "Oh, I'll just bring them fruit. I'll bring them guavas. I'll bring them oranges," because that's what I would always have. And I would tell my dad, I'm like, "I just left it there for them because I think that's what Lola and Lola would want." And my dad's joke is like the groundskeeper is just going to eat it and blah, blah, blah. And I'm just like, "Look, Dad, I don't know, but I want to give them something." Like, it's like something inherent in me. Like, I want to offer them something on that day, or even no matter what day I'm there to visit them. I want to give them something as a way to respect, like to pay them homage. And it's funny, like, I don't know if it's skipped a generation, but my dad he doesn't believe in anting and all that type of stuff. But I said it in the earlier, like my auntie had talked to a medium, and the medium said that there was a curse on the family, and then the family, like everybody in the family, needs to wear some sort of diamond. And this happened in college, and so as a way to protect ourselves. And I was like, so my dad told me, go buy a diamond, go buy a necklace. And I was like, in my head, logically, I'm like, you're telling me to buy an anting, but then you yourself do not believe in anting. Yes, I will do it because you're telling me to. Also, like, I'm not going to turn down a diamond. Like, I will wear one.
Who would? I'd want one.
Yeah. Thank you. So it's just interesting how, like, I don't know, like colonialism has like seeped into like our families, and like they refuse to believe in the pre-colonial practices, but then like inherently you still practice them. Like it's just a part of our culture.
And they call it superstition.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So just going back, how did you yourself kind of get into like healing? I know you saw it's in your lineage, but how did you learn all the practices that you do?
Yeah, thank you for that, for reminding me, because I think I deviated from that question. Sorry. it started when I was younger. I used to be the family masseuse during family gatherings.
So do you walk on people's backs?
I would literally, like my aunties and my cousins, everybody, they would be excited for me to go to these parties because they would ask me for these massages. And I would be doing energetic healing. I would feel where these blockages are, or like what they call, I would touch the arms and feel the gut, the veins, and feel where it's kind of lumpy and try to push it out, even in the muscles, the knots. So that's where it started. But really, it was because I was inspired by my dad, who did the hilot. So I began with hilot originally. So I guess you can call me like I'm a Manghi hilot, because technically that's where I first began. But with the plant medicine, it came later. It's actually integrated into our foods, by the way. So if we really think about it, we're all our own little albalarias when we do Filipino food.
Yeah.
Like our sausawan. I just posted on Instagram recently a vinegar that I made, which is a tincture.
Yeah.
Just sili, calamansi, garlic, onions, ginger, all that stuff.
That sounds good.
It's very good. And as a matter of fact, you could drink it and take it as a medicine to help your cold, your cough. It's antiviral, antibacterial, and also antispasmodic. So that means it helps with pain or inflammation. So yeah. Then as I got older, I learned different modalities of healing. I just learned more about energy healing because my mom was noticing something about me. I would tell her, Mom, I see people have colors. I was little. And she said, what is that? So she would go to the library and she got a book on aura. She's like, you're reading auras? What color is my aura? and to this day, I'll still have people ask me, well, what color is my aura? I'm like, I don't know. I don't work for free.
It doesn't work like that.
It doesn't work like that. I do have one strength that I do have is knowing to create boundaries and when to turn my abilities on and off. A lot of people don't know how to do that, which is why people get scared and freaked out about their own abilities, and they try to ignore it and say, you know what, I don't want to do this. This is too scary. So from there, even at the age of 15, I'll tell you how I got my divination. At the age of 15, I was doing readings. I could read people. Actually, you could divine with anything. You could use playing cards. You could use water. In the Philippines, they use tawas, that
The
under
crystal, yeah.
the crystals and the deodorant, the powder.
Yeah.
So you have people who are called mangtatawas. They'll read with the tawas. So you throw the tawas in the water and the imagery that you get from it. Yeah. So you read from that.
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Oh.
Okay.
And then for me, I do herbal divination. I could use plants. I use smoke with the guava leaves. I use that too. And so my mom got me, a very Catholic mother, got me my first set of tarot cards.
Nice.
At 15. Guess where? From the
Where?
KCET store.
Nice. Nice.
When it existed way back when.
In the Glendale Galleria?
At the Glendale Galleria.
Oh my God.
Oh my God.
And then became the Discovery
Yep,
store.
it did.
My gosh, that was one of my favorite stores. And before that was when Nature Company.
Yep.
Nature
Yep.
Company.
Wait,
That's right.
it was first KCET, Discovery, and then Nature.
Yeah.
Nature came- it was
the
separate.
globe.
Yeah.
It was a globe one. Remember they
Yes.
sold maps and stuff like that?
Oh, it was amazing.
Okay, so it's still kind of stayed along the same line.
I used to work at Discovery Center store
I love
in
that
college.
place.
I worked
my
there for a
gosh.
season, for like a holiday season.
Yeah.
And then I quit immediately after the holidays because I wanted my days back.
Okay, so you got the
Yeah,
tarot
so my
cards.
first tarot deck was from my mother. My mom was always encouraging me for,
That's cool.
she's very open-minded for being a very, she's grown up very Catholic. She's religious, but she's open. She's always been open to my healing, open to my divination talents or skills. As a matter of fact, I was always attracted to that since I was little, because she would have rocks and shells. And as I grew older, I'd want to get more crystals and rocks. And so my fascination with that continued because I was sensitive to the energies of these crystals and rocks, to plants. So this is all starting to funnel in. All my experiences started to funnel into becoming a shaman. Right? So what we define as a shaman, which culturally belong to Siberian practitioners, the word shaman, but it's become world known using that as someone who practices a form of spirituality of connecting to the earth in some way, which is what we do. We have forms of shamanism in the Philippines that have been somewhat demonized.
Yeah.
Suppressed.
It's been suppressed and demonized. From there, I started looking into different forms of magic. I started studying more on Wicca. I started studying magic in terms of other cultures, shamans, priests, all that. And I became really involved with the Catholic Church as well, too. I was a youth group leader.
Nice.
I did SCRC.
What's that stand for?
Southern California Catholic Renewal Convention. Yep.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. I was a lector, choir leader, you name it. I was their Eucharistic minister.
So it's
We
like
ran into same circles.
Yeah.
like
We'll
Ryan.
talk.
all that to say that means like those practice, like your Catholic practice and your Hilot and your Abularia practice, they can be together as opposed to like having them be separate.
Well,
Right.
yes.
Yeah.
The whole point of the church. Okay, so when the church was doing their evangelization back in the day during the 16th century, they had to make it so that the natives would accept this religion. It had to be accommodating in some way.
Right.
So a lot of the practices and beliefs are not even Christian, they're pagan. In all honesty, even the altar and the formation, the church, they used to make the churches in the form of a cross when they would build them. The whole lamb idea, Easter, all that, building it around the Gregorian calendar was built around the pagan calendar. So, you know, it's not that it can go together. I just choose which works with me because I have every right to work with
Yeah.
what works with me.
Totally.
Right? So when I became, as I was approaching, let's say, my late teens, early 20s, I'm giving my age away.
You're 21.
I'm 21, eternally 21.
I'm forever 23.
Forever. I think I look 25, so I'm going to keep it that.
I think you do too.
Well, thank you. Elaine got points with me. Yeah, so in my late teens to early 20s is when I started doing more intention work. And I started creating powders with intention. So I made love powders made with lavender and certain things. Oh, yeah.
Ryan, I think wants some.
I have a
I'm
love
just curious about what it is.
I have a love potion, actually.
Ryan's gonna make some.
And I actually have testimonials from people who used my products years ago when I was in my late teens. My sister and best friend, she said, your powder worked. She's like, had I not used it, I wouldn't have found my husband. Like my husband, and they're such a beautiful couple. And she's not the only one who used it. There's other people who've used my products, which is why as I got older, I said, well, my products work for people. Why not make it for people?
Right.
And it is a form of albularianism because I'm putting these plant stuff together with a specific intention. So they become my anting. They're infused with that spell or whatever you want to call it, prayer and intention. And then mid 20s, early 30s is when I really got deeper into my practice as a healer, like making it really official. And then it got super official when my dad passed away in 2015 And this was when I was in the Philippines. I was in Surigao, where he was. Does anyone know where Surigao is? Okay, so it's in Mindanao.
Oh, never mind.
Yeah, it's in Mindanao, the southernmost island, but at the very top, like northeastern part. So I told him, I said, Daddy, you don't have much time, because I've been feeling this for quite some time before I went to the Philippines. I said, Daddy, you don't have much time. And at that time, I was doing interviews with G. Tanji, and she recommended to me that, oh, you should interview him. So do a documentary, which I've never put this thing together yet, but it was fortunate that I bought this camera. What was it, honey? What was it?
Like just Canon.
Like a Canon S7, whatever, that little camera. Yeah. Brought it with me, and I did, like, I guess a little documentary. And I set up my camera in our hotel room where my dad stayed with me. I said, Daddy, tell me everything you need to tell me now before you go. Imagine that, like your daughter's telling you before you die.
That's heavy.
Please tell me what you know now, right?
How did he react?
My dad didn't react. He's just like, okay.
Oh, okay, cool.
He knew already.
Yeah.
He would just kind of look down. He wouldn't say anything much to me with regards to dying or death. So I interviewed him, and I said, Daddy, what about your healing powers? What happens? Because I feel like it's starting to come towards me. I feel something. He goes, oh yeah, the power transfers to who wants to have that power.
Interesting.
Okay.
Which is consistent, by the way, in shamanism, where true shamans are who they are based on transference.
So
Not shamanic practitioners, where there's people who pay these for, come in and learn shamanism for a day or 2-3 days, give us $3,000 and we'll certify you. There is no such thing, for goodness sake, there's no such thing as certified shamans. A shaman is a shaman is a shaman is a shaman.
that's interesting. So it's the power is from transference.
It's from transference.
Because my dad's Lola had white magic powers, is what he called it. But then she had to give it up when her son was going to be ordained to be a Jesuit priest. Like they held him back. They wouldn't let him be ordained with his class, so unless she gave up her powers. So she had to stop her practice. And so like that was so my dad's generation,
That
like
sucks.
did no one that I know of took the practice up. And so when I was a little kid, my dad would tell me stories about my Lola, like she had like telekinesis, like she could move things and she could do like she could talk to spirits. I used to always be fascinated with it, and I would try to like move a pencil and like keep it up like the craft type thing.
Yeah.
But I couldn't do it. Like I would concentrate and nothing happened. And so I'm like, hey, can I tap into that? Like, but also same token, when you talk about fear about like when sometimes the situations happen, I've actually just freaked out if it does happen.
Yeah.
Like, so I like at some, like that's a 50-50 coin, right? Like at one point I'm like really excited, like I could actually have these things. You talk about transference, but the other times when I've seen the power manifest itself, I'm too afraid of it. Like last week I was walking at work and I smelled roses only for a hot second, but it was very strong and it disappeared. And I tried to logically do it, like, was there anybody around me walking by? Did I walk by a like thing of flower petals? There's nobody there. There's no one there. It just happened for a hot second and I panicked. I called my dad and was like, Dad, are you okay? Is Mom okay? And he's like, why? I was like, because I just smelled roses and it's gone. And he was like, oh, no, we're fine, but you should call Mike. And then I called Mike at a conference and he answered the phone. He's like, hello? And I'm like, are you okay? He's like, yeah, I'm fine. I'm like, okay, why? And I'm like, because I just smelled roses really quick and I'm really scared. And Mike was like, I'm fine. And I'm like, and then it just like, it stuck with me all day. Like, why did I smell the roses? And then at the end of the day, I think it was my Lola visiting me, telling me to go. My family was having a prayer meeting that afternoon because they pray the rosary once a month. And I think my Lola was pushing me to go pray. And so I ended up, I did go. I went and I spent time with my family, and it was actually, I felt really good that I was there. And when I talked to my cousin, he was just like, it's Lola. I think Lola's telling you. And I'm like, okay. But I remember like at that moment, I was like really scared. So it's like, I'm like, I don't know if I necessarily want the powers. I mean, I'm props to you that you have the strength to like hold it in and to know how to like transfer that to your healing path.
Yeah, that's a pretty common manifestation for spirits to use to let you know that they're present. Which is, it doesn't mean something bad happened. Usually if it's roses, that's a very positive sign.
Oh, thank God.
Yeah, you're fine. You're fine.
So what if it's like with thought or something?
That's just
Then something's wrong.
Then I think somebody just farted.
that means you drank some milk.
You ate something wrong.
It means you didn't take a lactate.
But it's like paramdam, right? Like usually it's done in like sometimes it's through sound or through the smell of candles or roses. Yeah. So.
But going back to what you said, Lynn, between you and your father, like you yourself were accepting of it.
Yeah, I'm the only one that I know of in my family. I know one other cousin who is pretty powerful, but it's not going that way. But that's when I interviewed him, he said that's the transference. And he used another word, that I'm going to put it out in public right now because I'm sure no one's heard of this word. But he said that in the area where he's from, our relatives were not all positive white lighter magic people. Some were not the best. Some were like spellcasters, negative people. And like in any family, nobody's family is perfect. We can't have all good people. Most of us have bad people and good people, a mix of it. And so he used the word merestejon.
Never heard of it.
And no one has. You've heard of Babaylan. You've heard of now people are starting to hear about albularias because of what I'm putting out there. But merestejons, I was like, what does that mean? He's like, she did. This is his words. He's like, well, she did those spells, sometimes bad, sometimes good, but you don't make her mad. Like you don't want to do all that. And then my great grandmother, one of my great grandmothers, this was a tale. I don't know if it's, but this is what it's said. My grandmother told me this, and my dad told me this, that she had a black cross on her tongue.
Oh,
wow.
I'm guessing she had one of those geographical tongues. I don't know. I'm just guessing. I don't know. A black cross, literally, like if she said something, that shit will happen to you. So don't fucking piss her off. That kind of thing.
So, okay.
Yeah.
So it was like, you weren't sure if it was a metaphor or
they're saying it's literal. My great grandmother had a black cross on her tongue.
My Lola did that.
What do you mean?
Like there's a family story where my dad, so she's my great grandmother, but she talked to a spirit by having she sat in a rocking chair and then there was an empty rocking chair and then the rocking chair moved. So she talked to the spirits because the family that was alive was fighting and they were like fighting over dumb shit. Like I'm sure it was money or land. And then my Lola then told the rest of the family, like the warring families, like if you do not resolve this, someone's gonna die on this specific day. Wow. And the family, like my dad said that like those relatives didn't believe her, but they just waited the year out, and then the day happened, the day that came, and no one was dead. So they're like, oh, she was a liar, she's full of shit. Da, 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 da. They go to the beach, they have a like picnic or whatever, barbecue, whatever. They go swimming, and someone comes back and then they die on the beach. So it was the day, and then she did it. Like, so my Lola, like she called it, she said like, you need to fix this or something bad's going to happen. Someone's going to die. And then it happened. And I remember my dad told me that story and I was like, I don't think so, Dad. But I mean, Black Cross, like it's the same shit that my dad said.
Pretty close. And here's the thing, like I'm like a live version of that, like current version of that, of your great grandmother. Because I told my dad you don't have much time, and after I interviewed him, he died 3 days later.
Wow.
And we were in Tinoyan Falls and Hinatawan River the day I felt the transference, and I got blessed by the spirits of the land. This was the start of literally when you get transference, you have to go through a trial and a test, and the test was that, and it was difficult to feel that feeling in your chest of this energy being ripped out. And I felt it, like I felt like I was having a heart attack. And I didn't say anything to my mom because I knew something had happened, but I had to make sure everything happened as organically as possible. And then when I was there, I felt that blessing, that baptism by the homeland. Then when we went back to Surigao, that's when we found out my dad had passed. Wow. And then that whole ordeal of exhuming his body and just like, and I was the one to conduct the ceremony and burn his body over there. We had to take his body all the way from Surigao all the way to Cagayan de Oro because that was the only place you can cremate them.
Oh wow!
Oh, because they don't traditionally do.
No,
like
they
want you to
don't.
bury them or put them in a mausoleum.
Yep.
Wow.
Yep.
So, going back to your actual practices, you work a lot with herbs and plants.
Mm-hmm.
What are some of the plants that you work with, and like what do they do?
Good question.
Very good question. There's lots of plants.
What are some of them? I mean, you talked about bayabas.
Yeah, that's my major plant.
Yeah.
That's my one big plant that I really work with. I work with avocado. I work with, malunggay.
Mm-hmm.
I use betel leaf, ginger, gumamela, which is hibiscus. A lot of what's accessible here. I gave you your potted plant for your house, which is the Gainura
Thanks for that.
procumbens. You're welcome. That most people call it ashitaba, but it technically isn't ashitaba. That is a Japanese plant. It looks totally different, but Filipinos call it the Philippine ashitaba. Some people call it sambong, but it's Gainura procumbens. And that particular plant, just so people know, because I want this to get out there, that plant is good for diabetes. You eat the leaves raw, put it in a salad, put it in your shake. You can make it into a tea, add it to hot water. But yeah, you could use 2 leaves a day and you're good.
Cool.
Natural medicine,
Right,
not these, what is this, metformin and diabetic medicines that ruin your kidneys and eventually you're in pain
A
and
million side effects
side effects
that you have to take more medicine for.
which FDA gives approval for, by the way,
Right.
which really, there's a lot of other things I can talk about, like even cannabis plant. I'm working with CBD now.
Oh, nice.
We're going to be offering hemp-derived CBD tinctures.
Cool.
Yeah.
I know a lot of preventive health has to do with our diets.
Mm-hmm.
So, what kind of plants and what kind of vegetables, what kind of food should we be eating more of?
Yeah, we have to do less of frying.
Let me write that one down.
Like, didn't we just eat fried dumplings?
Less of frying.
They were steamed.
Steamed with a little bit of oil is good.
Yeah.
Sesame oil is excellent. That's part of Ayurvedic medicine.
Cool.
Also part of our medicine, because Ayurvedic medicine is tied into our lineage because of the people of India who have come to our country, our own ancestors who have traveled that way. It's tied in. It's some of the things you were talking about, the herbs, right? So malunggay, you want to go with that one? That's pretty basic. Everybody has at least, and I hope everybody's had an experience with malunggay, right?
Yeah.
In tinola
Yeah.
or some
Hard
sort
to
of
find
thing.
sometimes.
Yeah. But and if it grows prolifically in someone's yard. You'll know when someone is Filipino.
We have our neighbor has it. It's like
Yeah.
a tree that's still there because his mom had planted it.
Yeah, they grow huge.
I tried growing some and it just never works out.
Like, should I just grab like a branch and then give it to you? Like, how does this work?
Yeah, you have to graft it if you want to, or get it by seed or use seed.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
You know where we are, Joe. You can go grab some.
I got some seeds. I can kick it down some. But malunggay is excellent it has so many antioxidants and minerals. most people, like if you're pregnant and you're not pregnant, but if you're breastfeeding, it's good to produce milk. I don't generally recommend eating it while pregnant or trying to get pregnant because it stimulates the uterus. Let's see. The oil is also useful. Malunggay seed oil. I put that in my products as well. It's excellent for the skin, helping it to regenerate. The ula oil that I make. I don't know if you have that.
Yeah, I love that stuff.
Yeah. You could put that in your hair, your scalp. I do it. I put it on my scalp.
Joe, maybe we need like
working.
You need to throw some of that ula oil on there.
I might need like 30 bottles.
Yeah, it does. It really helps.
And then you'll have a long mane of hair.
It's gorgeous. You'll do the Fabio thing. Does anybody know who Fabio is?
Yes.
I'm dating myself too. Right there. Yeah, and then we have the loya. We have the ginger, which also goes in my products, but we boil that as tea. We can have it grated raw, put it in our foods. That's all incorporated in our food. It's amazing. Even coconut milk.
Right.
The energy we get from coconut milk, that's all natural. It's non-dairy. It's got the right, it has medium chain triglycerides, all that good stuff to give us the energy we need throughout the day without coffee.
Right.
And if you have to have coffee, put some coconut milk in there. Way better than...
That's interesting.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
Try that.
Yeah.
I don't drink coffee, but
Yeah, get the one in the can. It tastes
Yeah.
much better than the one in the carton.
Yeah.
Because it's the cream more. But if you get the one in the carton, it's just it's fine, except they dilute it more with water.
yeah, like
Yeah.
the coconut water. And, Yeah,
And then try to look for the ones without all the preservatives. Like they put sodium metabisulfite and all that kind of stuff.
So I'm curious, and maybe Gilbert can weigh in on this as well. But you mentioned you had kids, right? Is there I don't know how old they are, but how old are the kids? Are they interested, or are they showing interest in what you guys do?
Well, our son, we have two. One's 15 now. And, we have our younger boy. He's 8, going on 9. But they are also healers in their way. And our oldest, she's
Like me.
Yeah,
She's the family hilot.
Oh,
yeah.
wow.
I'm like, Soraya, massage
massages
me.
her. Yeah. And then our son too is very. He sees a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's
We're just
that
trying to
one.
get him over the fear of, you got to be stronger than that.
Yeah.
Don't let fear, they know it. So the more you're fearful, the more they'll show themselves
Right.
to you. So we're trying to raise them, and it's good because Lynn is growing up. She didn't really have a guide. So now that our kids are growing up, she's gone through all these and a lot. Even being with her for the past 10 years, I've seen a lot. I've experienced a lot more than I have in my whole life. And I think it's just her as a magnet that attracts it. But yeah, she's guiding them and she's teaching them that, to empower them, because no one else will.
Yeah.
There's nobody out there.
Yeah, that's where the lack of
Right.
is in our community, society, culture, whatever. These kids are being born to families who, if you're lucky and your mom is psychic or intuitive and the mom is accepting and very good at teaching that, you're lucky. My mom was like, "Oh no, that's the Virgin Mary." I was like,
Yeah.
"The Virgin Mary is not scary, Mom.
She's not a dark
She is not this dark person walking in the
corner or
hallway
something.
about to like." Because I've had some really, 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 I'd say, intense experiences to the point of possession. I was possessed. I had dark matter, those dark beings that laid down next to me when I was younger. I've been, I guess you could say, molested by one. And there are people out there who have experienced that on a spiritual plane. But that is all part of my experience of being a healer, because I have to experience all this in order to relate to all these people who don't have anyone else to talk to. And these children that have these abilities they live in fear, a lot of them, because the fear is put in them, or because no one is helping them to be brave and know how to deal with their skills, talents. And I hope one day there will be like some sort of like parent support group or
Right.
children's support group within the Filipino community first.
Right.
I want to help our community to get over those fears.
When you said dark matter, is it like when you're in bed and then like you'd feel like a heavy spirit like sit on you, or like a black, like a cloud? Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I had one of that, and I had where it actually looked like a person, it got up, it stood up next to. Well, it was laying next to me.
Did it stand near you?
No, it literally sat up and then stood, and my body was frozen, and I didn't.
Were
move.
you like, you felt like you were awake, but you were like in bed, and then you couldn't move?
Yep.
I went like in college. I had that happen to me.
I've had that happen to me too.
Yeah.
All right, quick question. What did you guys hear any sound?
No.
No.
There was
No sound.
No sound.
But for my experience, it was as if I felt like I was battling the figure.
Yeah.
And like I was the only, and it felt like an out of body experience. Like I was looking down on the whole event. And like I could feel my body, like I was moving and like.
Were you trying to get up?
Yeah, I was trying to get up, and I was like, it was as if the being had held me,
held you down, and you couldn't move.
Yeah, but then like I just kept fighting, and then finally like whatever it was just left, and I shook myself and
you woke up
out.
in like the middle of the night.
Yeah, and then I went and I went straight for my rosary, and I went back to sleep when I had my rosary. And
I love how you did that. Like when I was going through that, it was like a good like 3 or 4 weeks, and I was like, "What's going on? What am I doing different? Like, was my windows open or something?" And I remember like I told my dad, and my dad was like, "Just say." He would say the Apostles' Creed, which is like.
That's odd.
Like I believe in, you know what I mean? Like
Creed.
I guess to reaffirm your
Creed.
Is that what it's called? I don't know.
Apostles' Creed.
Okay.
Yeah, Apostles' Creed or the Nicene Creed
or something like that. Yeah. And so I remember he told me to do that, but I could not remember the entire prayer. So I just...
You just mumble the rest of it.
I believe in God. I believe in God. And then I would be like,
Father Almighty.
And then so, but then, so another thing that I do now is like when I feel anxious or nervous, I say this prayer to my guardian angel that I learned when I was like in CCD class.
Yeah.
And when that situation was happening to me, I just did that instead. And it broke it, and it feel like it was like a mantra. It's like my mantra to myself to calm myself.
Is it the angel of God, my guardian dear?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
I say that to myself. It's also my parking prayer, so I can find parking.
Oh yeah, we have parking angels.
Yeah.
We have parking angels, right, honey?
Yeah, the parking karma clap.
Oh yeah, that's what Gilbert does. He claps in and he goes like this.
I love it.
I'm gonna add that to it.
Yes.
I always do.
Add that to your repertoire of finding parking.
I always do Hail Mary, full of grace, help me find the parking space.
Yes. Oh my God.
That's a good one.
We're so bad.
But
We're just bastardizing it.
I know, seriously.
I think it's just interesting. Like Girly and I share like that we have those similar. Maybe I really am like empathic. I always said I was, but I was just like, because I feel like sensitive to energies, and I have lots of anxiety, and I always thought it was neuroses on my own end. But I have a feeling like it's kind of like my empathic nature, and I'm just super sensitive to things. I mean, Mike knows I cry at a drop of a dime at like dog videos, military reunion videos.
Oh my gosh.
Sports videos.
Stop subjecting yourself.
I love it though.
Oh my gosh.
Well, going back to what you said about your kids, I mean, knowing having more knowledge and confidence in my family lineage and all of the healers in my family, my niece has had several occasions where she's experienced a spirit in my parents' house, whether it's been a family spirit or a spirit that's attached to the land in some sort of way. And my parents are, they're completely comfortable with all this knowledge, aside from the fact that they never really told me until I got older.
Yeah.
But and I believe that my brother is also sensitive to these abilities, but over time he's kind of pushed him away a bit. But with my niece, she's still 10. And I want to be able to like have her feel comfortable in these experiences and also learn about more abilities in relation to these kind of like abilities that she has.
And then I guess for the TFAL audience in general, like if they also are feeling like if they also had the black cloud thing, or if they feel like these spirits, like how could we help them, embrace these energies?
Yeah.
Yeah. What I normally do is I call on the Archangel Michael.
Oh
Very
my God,
powerful.
When I was a kid, that was what these mediums used to tell my dad.
When I was a kid, that was my altar next to my bed was like, those little, in the mail, my mom would get these solicitations from various
Like nun organizations.
nun or Saint Francis organizations. And they would send you those little prayer pamphlets.
Yeah.
And so I would keep the one of Archangel Michael, and I created this little trifold thing, and I had him there, not even Jesus, right? I had Michael. And I was like, and there's a reason why I probably had him there, because he was protective of me. And when I would feel that fear, I'd say, Archangel Michael, I need you. I love you so much. Can you please just like be with me? And to this day, I'm still that way. And I call on all the archangels. So the prayer that I normally say is I call on all the angels and archangels of the highest consciousness. So anybody can say that. I call on the angels and archangels of the highest consciousness. I call on Archangel Michael to keep me safe from any energies that wish to harm me, any lower vibrational energies that are within my environment, to please remove them and dispose of them properly as you see fit. And that gives me that comfort, and I have really strong faith. And then all of a sudden, I'll just feel like this lightness, like the energy all of a sudden just lifts. And then when in my house, because I bring a lot of people over to my house, because it's a community house, I'll smudge the whole place with guava leaves, and then I'll do frankincense too on top of that. There's a reason why the church burns frankincense. That stuff is powerful. So I do that throughout the house, including the guava, to address all other energies.
Do you have the little thing with
the incense gold thing? Yeah, the sensor thingy. Then it goes ding.
The chain.
And then bow real quick. Yeah. We're at mass.
We're all mimicking what we see
at church.
We're like moving our hands.
Gilbert was an altar boy. Did you do that?
Yes.
Yeah, I held it. I think it's smudged.
So we're almost out of time, but I wanted to ask, were you ever challenged by by these beliefs? I know you talked about it a little earlier, by like Filipinos, who directly challenge what you're doing.
Not yet.
Not yet.
Okay.
There might be one. He might be a cousin, but I always figure someone who's a real die-hard fundamentalist Catholic, they're just another form of bigotry. And I have to have compassion for whatever was incepted into their mind. Whatever they were put with that beliefs and thought systems,
How about like people who are like hardcore like all about Western science and
that's cool. I'll just say that's cool.
Yeah.
It just makes it easier. Like, let's just agree to disagree, because I got to get going.
Yeah.
Well, I have too many things to do. I don't have time to argue with you. I'm not going to convince you. You're not going to convince me. So if you want, try my products. They're awesome. If you don't believe in the spiritual aspect of it, cool. But you know what? They're moisturizing. They're made with really good plant medicine. And hey, you may benefit from it in some way, and may it bless your family, and may it bless you and your energy.
One quick question, because I'm really curious about technicalities of like, do you write anything down, like whether it be recipes or for things that your kids can read in the future, or is that something that you hold more into like a verbal like transfer
or like oral tradition?
Yeah, or is it like something that you're like, you know what, I want to write a lot of these things down. I want to diary it or
well,
journal
thank
it.
you for asking that. I'm actually writing a book.
Yeah.
Oh,
Awesome.
nice.
I am.
Cannot wait.
That's awesome.
Yeah, I'm writing a book because there's a serious lack of from a healer perspective in
Yes.
the diaspora.
Yeah, that's actually why. Yes,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Yes, I
Good for
am.
you.
And
That's
it'll
awesome.
be out probably by next year.
That's great.
Well, I'll be done because it takes a lot of time to really put together something. And I'm developing a curriculum to have
awesome.
plant medicine workshops, a real curriculum, not just like, oh, I'm here, I'm having a workshop.
Yeah.
It's really going to be about, if you really want to learn, you're going to take time. It takes time to learn these energies. You cannot just, oh, okay, well, Malunga is for this.
Yeah. Right.
Like a Cliff Notes chart of like this does this and this does that.
Yeah.
No.
Periodic table.
You're gonna be expected to work with the tree.
Right.
You're gonna work with the plant. You're gonna draw at the plant. You're gonna really feel the energy of the plant, and you're going to
That's awesome.
touch on your deep ancestral memories that are in your bloodline, and bring that out. So, like for you, girly, this would benefit you greatly. For you, Elaine, I mean, I think you're just gonna benefit in all sorts of ways.
Yeah.
And you could start telling people it's not Google, it's me.
You're right. And Joe and I will work on the head oil thing.
Yes, we'll get the little oil too, guys.
I want to look like Fabio.
You want to flip your hair back and forth?
I miss that.
You
I
could
miss
be
my
on a
long bangs.
romantic novel one day. Right, girly? Write the novel and have him be in the book. Oh my God, that'd be the best. Oh my God, Joe's got long hair. This romance novel? Wow.
Did you check out that book that I forwarded you about the? It's basically the last recorded, or not the last, but one of the first Spanish recordings of Filipino healing practices.
Oh.
Wow, really?
Yeah.
Where'd you find that?
I thought I forwarded to you.
Oh, look,
Forward it to all of us.
I'll forward to all of you.
And we'll put it in
I
a
think-
blog post, I guess.
I think it's like a recent published manuscript of,
okay.
you know,
I'm
because
gonna have to
Spanish
look at that.
friars during early colonization used to write down the customs
Right.
of
So
Filipinos.
is it like Castilian Spanish? So it's like super deep and we're not going to be
Well,
able to
I'm sure it's
understand.
translated.
Oh, okay.
I know those monks practice plant medicine. They always
Yeah.
had that garden next to the monastery.
And I'm really happy to hear kind of like your Catholic upbringing and this kind of dispelling this myth of like being in tune with nature, in tune with plants and herbs and spirits that way.
Yeah.
Because I think we forgot a lot of that. I don't know why. My dad, you know, still I think in the intro we're talking about his use of ginger. I've used ginger for like salabat. I use it on sprained ankles, you know. But I think there's something in the generation that we, you know, folks that were born here. I came here when I was 7, but I forgot a lot of that stuff, and I forgot sometimes we forget the value of prayer and meditation,
Yeah.
and just kind of like taking a step back to go and really understand our spiritual health, combined with, you know, our bodies are all kind of meshed in together. So I appreciate the faith part of the healing, because if you don't really believe in it, of course it's not going to work for you, because that's part of it, you know. If so, and I was also raised pretty Catholic. My sister still uses a hilot, and they are believers. They are also traditional Catholic. So I think that's great, and I'm more power to you in the book. Yeah,
Yeah.
I think that's awesome.
Yeah, because I feel like even if our families like try to, you know, fall in line with like the Catholic Church or whatnot, but like the practices are still like going to be Filipino, like pre-colonial practices. They just may not know, like they just been bought into it. Like we talked about it, like with white flour, or like my mom used to always say, like, oh, you're sick or you have a cold, put the holy water from the Mama Mary on the altar on your forehead and your throat. You know, it's kind of like those practices are not, they're not like traditional over the counter medicine, but it's like that's the healing power
Just
of
gotta
like
respect it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so
And again, that's an adaptation of goddess practice, our deities
Yeah.
in the Philippines. So that probably would be a nice subject to bring up next time.
Yeah. But this is awesome. I appreciate you guys. We finally got to talk, so this was great.
Thank you for
I'm sure
having
we'll
us.
have you
Yeah.
on again to talk about other things.
Yes.
And
Yeah.
can you share with us your website where people can find you, whether it's your social media or whatever plugs you have currently?
Yes, you can find more about me and our company on www.herbalaria.com. That's spelled HERBALARIA. And then on Instagram, it's at I am Herbalaria. On Facebook, it's Herbalaria, INTL. And we're also on Twitter.
Nice.
So find us there as well. I think it's I am Herbalaria on Twitter too. I'm not sure.
And we'll put it all on our
Put it all on
blog.
there. I need come and find me there. I
Yeah.
say stuff there too. I say different shit from Facebook and different shit on Instagram. It's all different.
Yeah.
So you got to follow me everywhere. And if anybody has questions about what we talked about today, please feel free
Email.
to email me at lyn.pacificar, that's lyn.pacificar at herbalaria.com.
Cool. I
Thank
think
you.
that's it. And thank you so much for being here.
Thank you.
And we'll catch you on the next one.
Yes.
I think. Yeah.
This Filipino American Life is produced by Michael Nailat. Our intro and outro music is by Roger Habon, aka 10.4 Raj. Resident reality checker Girly Colado, legal advisor Rianne Fajardo, and graphic design by Vincent Collyer.